I never imagined I would confront a ruthless billionaire, but her courage changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart races at the thought, a stinging reminder of that moment. The air was thick with tension, a storm brewing inside me. I stood there, trembling, as the reality of my situation seeped into my bones. The room was dark, illuminated only by the faint glow of the chandelier overhead, casting eerie shadows on the walls. I could hear my heartbeat thundering like a drum, drowning out the whispers of the onlookers. There was something about her, Sofia De Luca. The name alone sent shivers down my spine. She wasn't just any billionaire, she was a legend. Cold, calculating, with eyes like icy daggers that sliced through pretense that I had heard the stories, of course. Whispers of deals made in back rooms, acquisitions that left others in ruins. Yet, standing before her felt surreal. She was every bit as imposing as I'd imagined, dressed in sleek black. Her presence sucked the air out of the room. I was just a small fish in a vast ocean of sharks. My fingers trembled at my sides, a raw mix of fear and determination coursing through me. It was my sister, Eva, who had pushed me into this arena. Her excitement about the charity gala had been contagious, driving me to attend despite my reservations. She believed in fighting against the odds, a fire in her soul that ignited a spark in mine. But now, in this pivotal moment, I felt that fire flickering. She was a victim of De Luca's ruthless empire, and I knew I had to confront that power if I wanted to protect her. As I stood frozen, the whispers around me grew louder, their judgment palpable. Who does she think she is? What a fool. The words were daggers aimed right at my resolve. I could feel every pair of eyes drilling into me, scrutinizing my every move. But then, amidst the judgment, there was a spark, a flicker of hope in my chest. I remembered Eva's smile, her laughter, the way she fought against every storm in her life. Suddenly, Sofia fixed her gaze on me. The silence fell hard, heavy. My breath caught in my throat, and the world around us dimmed. She stepped closer, each stride echoing like thunder in the hush. What do you want? Her voice cut through me, smooth yet edged like glass. There it was. My heart raced. I had to find the words. The air crackled with electricity, my mind racing through the possibilities. But everything I had rehearsed fled under the weight of her stare. I want justice for my sister. The words burst forth, raw and desperate. The room seemed to hold its breath. A flicker of amusement danced in her eyes. Justice? In my world? You'll need more than empty words. The challenge lingered in the air, taunting, inviting a battle I never wanted to fight. Would I really take her on? Could I? In that moment, a shockwave of uncertainty crashed over me. I felt the weight of my own fear, wondering if I was truly prepared for the fight that lay ahead. Would I be brave enough? Or would I crumble under her gaze? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The echo of my words hung in the air, as if my plea had summoned a force far greater than me. Justice for my sister. The phrase ricocheted in my mind, while the anticipation for her response tightened the space between us. The onlookers had fallen inadvertently silent, caught in a web of drama they never anticipated. In that stillness, an unexpected sensation began to unfold within me. Courage. It swelled, pressing against the walls of my insecurities. I might be outmatched in every way, yet here I was, facing the sorceress of power with just my burning desire for justice. But Sofia's lips curled slightly, a smirk that rattled my bravado. Justice is a mere illusion. I can take everything you hold dear, and you'll find it means nothing in the end. Her words dripped with derision, each syllable like ice carving into my determination. But I was not here to cower. I was here for Eva. I might not have your power, but I have something you can't take away. My voice trembled but held steady. I have hope. Hope for my sister's future. A naive sentiment, she replied, her gaze piercing through the crowd, leaving an ache in my heart. This world doesn't reward sentimentality. Yet, as her laughter echoed, a persistent whisper landed in my ear. Memories of flickering lights in a dim room, Eva sitting cross-legged on the floor, painting hope on a canvas, dreaming big, far beyond the harsh reality around her. Little moments like those had stitched the fabric of my resolve. Sophia leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. Do you really think you can change anything? You'll be just another ghost in my path. I could feel my confidence waver under her intense scrutiny. But even in the deepest part of me an ember glowed, flickering but defiantly refusing to die. The moment stretched into eternity as my heart battled between fear and the burgeoning urge to stand my ground. Suddenly, I felt a touch at my arm. It was a stranger, an elderly woman with kind eyes nearly obscured by the shadows, her gnarled hand gripping my sleeve gently. You have more strength than you realize, she murmured softly, her voice barely above a whisper, but it resonated within me. I turned to her, surprised and moved. This moment of unexpected kindness was like a balm on my wounded spirit. Thank you, I managed to say, and for the first time since entering the room, my heart quieted, finding clarity. But Sophia was not done. You, along with your little band of misfits, will be in my way. And I will crush those who stand against me. A chill ran down my spine. Her threat permeated the air, coiling around the room, wrapping tight like a python preparing to constrict. I couldn't let myself falter. I had to keep fighting for Eva and for every stitch of hope she had ever knit into our lives. Then bring it on, I said more boldly than ever before, wrestling the fear down into submission. You may stand tall, but you can't extinguish the fight inside me. That's cute, she replied, a mocking tone infiltrating her voice, but a flicker of acknowledgement brewed behind her cold facade. But before I could draw any more strength from my defiance, an uproar shook the gala. The previously quiet murmurs of the crowd escalated into a cacophony as security personnel rushed through the hall. A man was being dragged out, shouting incoherently, and the primal fear in his voice echoed my own deepest anxieties. Stop. Don't take me. I know what she's done. With that revelation hanging in the air, the crowd gasped collectively. Sophia's demeanor shifted instantaneously, a crack in her icy armor. Just as swiftly, my heart plummeted to my stomach. What did he know? As I watched her face transform from amusement to something darker, the room spun with tension. Would this turn of events hinder my mission or propel me into the heart of a conspiracy that could change everything? I couldn't shake the feeling that my path, intertwined with the fate of my sister's safety, was about to face an even greater storm. The man's frantic shouts faded into the background, but his words pulsated in my mind. The truth loomed somewhere in the shadows stood a secret that could either break us or ignite our revolution. One thing was certain, I was no longer just fighting for Eva, I was stepping into an arena of hidden truths and lurking dangers I could never have prepared for. My confrontation with Sophia had only just begun. As the chaos unfolded around me, the room buzzed with a frantic energy that mirrored my own racing heart. The man was still being dragged away, his desperate voice now just a whisper amid the rising tide of uncertainty. Don't let her silence me. She's hiding the truth. Each sharp gasp of the crowd pulled me deeper into a whirlwind of intrigue, stirring a restless curiosity. What conclusion had he reached about Sophia? What secrets were buried beneath her polished exterior? I dared not lose focus on my purpose. Eva was the reason I couldn't back down. I stole a glance at Sophia, who was trying to maintain her regal composure, but her eyes glinted with a mixture of anger and something else, perhaps fear. A realization dawned on me, she was not invincible. Confident as she was, there was a fracture in her fortress, a vulnerability I could exploit. "Why don't you let him speak, Sophia?" I called out, my voice cutting through the noise. The crowd, still reeling from the uproar, momentarily paused, hanging on to my words. Why the need for silence? Unless you have something to hide? The hesitation in her gaze only fueled my courage further. I stepped forward, my heart thrumming in my chest. What can he possibly reveal that could threaten someone like you? A woman of such incredible power. A shiver of disbelief ran through the crowd as they processed the confrontation. In the back of my mind, I felt the elderly woman's grip on my arm strengthen. Her presence was a constant reminder that contentious battles often drew unexpected allies. Sophia's smirk returned, but it was tinged with a shade of irritation. "You don't know what you're playing with, little girl. You think this is a game? It's life and death." "Maybe it is," I shot back, suddenly aware of the weight of her words. "But I won't let fear dictate my actions any longer." As I spoke, my thoughts flicked to Eva's silenced laughter, her contagious ambition. I felt a wave of warmth, a flicker of her spirit lighting a path through my doubts. Just then, I remembered the small painting she had made shortly before everything Chang'e, a vivid depiction of a phoenix rising from the ashes. That image had always resonated with our struggles. I could feel the intense urgency of that moment wrapped inside me like a tangled ball of yarn, begging to be unraveled. The crowd's hostility was beginning to shift, sympathy dawning in their eyes as they watched me stand resolute against the storm. Perhaps I wasn't alone, perhaps we all craved a cause worth fighting for. Then, just as the tension seemed poised to snap, the doors swung open again. A shadowy figure entered, the dim light catching snippets of intrepid features. It was a young man, wild-eyed and determined, his breath heaving as though he'd run a marathon. "Wait! Don't throw me out!" he gasped, familiarity etched across his face. It took a moment for recognition to settle in, and when it did, a weight lodged in my throat. It was Eva's old friend, someone who had witnessed the length of her struggles. What was he doing here? The instant our eyes met, I saw a flicker of understanding, a silent communication that transcended words. "I have something important to reveal," Adam called, his voice cracking with urgency. Suddenly the spotlight shifted, blaring onto him. The crowd hushed. Within moments, his revelation could either drive a wedge deeper or weave allies where fear once reigned. In the midst of this tumult, my heart raced anew. Would he rise to the occasion and shatter the oppressive silence that had loomed over us all, or would he retreat into shadows again? I edged closer, adrenaline washing over me like a tidal wave, uncertainty mingling with hope. Sophia's expression darkened, yet there was a new flicker of calculation in her eyes. She was reeling, too. This was becoming more than just a fight for justice. It was transforming into a confrontation against the very fabric of hidden motives and mysteries that bound our lives. "Enough games. This ends now," she spat, veering toward a desperate grasp for control. In that moment, I felt the entire room hold its breath. The walls of power shifted and trembled precariously, and chaos was poised to erupt anew. Adam was a wild card, but would his words be the catalyst for our liberation or our doom? As the moment thickened with tension, a gnawing apprehension invaded my mind. What secrets had he been privy to, and would he have the strength to divulge them in front of Sophia? Whatever he had to say could unlock doors we were yet unaware of, but might also chain us deeper in her clutches. Hope and dread warred within me, rattling my very core. The next few words could shatter everything I had fought for, or light a spark that would change our fates forever. Adam took a moment to catch his breath, wiping the sweat from his brow, the intensity of the moment wrapping around us like thick fog. The crowd, once charged with hostility, fell into an expectant silence, their eyes flickering between him and Sophia. I could hear the faintest whispers of excitement and dread, a tide pulling us in opposing directions. "Please, just hear me out," Adam pleaded, his voice trembling. "I saw things. There are things going on that none of you understand, things that could change everything." Sophia surged forward, cutting him off. "Your words mean nothing in this room, Adam. You are a shadow of your former self, a disgrace to the cause you claim to represent. How dare you come here and disrupt? But instead of shrinking back, he stood firm, the fire in his eyes igniting something inside me. He was a flicker of light against her shadows, a testament to hope, something we had all been yearning for. It's not just about me, he shot back, voice rising with conviction. It's about Eva. The truth is out there, and it connects all of us. I was at the meeting when he swallowed hard, looking toward the crowd, gauging the reaction. When she confronted Sophia about her plans. Plans to dismantle everything she's worked for, everything we've built together, an electric current zipped through the audience, tension morphed into anxious anticipation. I found myself clenching my fists, gripped by a dizzying blend of anger and desperation. This was the unraveling of the tangled relationships, the hidden allegiances that dictated our lives. Don't listen to him. Sophia's voice was low and dangerous, yet betrayal flickered like a candle behind her icy veneer. He's just a desperate man trying to stay relevant. He thinks he can undermine my work, but I assure you Adam wasn't deterred. You don't scare me anymore, Sophia. Not when I carry the truth. You act like you own this city, but the people here deserve to know. In that moment, I caught a glimpse of a spark rekindling in the crowd's eyes, the glimmers of doubt towards Sophia and the birth of something powerful. They were holding on to Adam's words, each syllable sowing seeds of defiance where before there had only been fear. Stop! I shouted, stepping toward Adam as the moment teetered on the brink of eruption. If this is really about Eva, we need to unite. We need to share everything. What do you know? Adam hesitated, the weight behind his silence heavy with what he thought could change our fates forever. I have files, evidence, communications, he said finally, his face betraying the depth of his unease. But it's not just physical evidence, it goes deeper than we thought. The connections were all there, right under our noses. As I processed his words, a disquieting thought took root in my mind. This wasn't merely a fight for justice, it could fracture everything I thought I understood about my life, about Eva, about relationships I had formed in this arena of power. Sophia's countenance shifted, a flash of something panic, gracing her features. It was only for a moment, but I seized it. What do you mean? What kind of connections? Adam looked around, as if gauging how much to share. There are others, people we thought we could trust, who are entwined in this web. Someone even closer to us. They benefit from our struggles, feeding off the chaos. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, curiosity mingled with fear. Sophia's jaw tightened, her composure cracking. You're lying. You're grasping at straws to remain relevant. No, I'm not, he asserted, swinging back to her with fire. I know what I've seen. I can't lay it all out here, but they're watching us right now. They don't want us unearthing anything. They want to see us fight amongst ourselves until we're too weak to stand. You, of all people, should understand what stakes you're messing with. Sophia faltered for a moment, her defiance melting into something else, a shadow of uncertainty before she effortlessly masked it with an icy facade. The unrest swelled, with the crowd divided between awe at Adam's revelations and fear of Sophia's wrath. Then, out of nowhere, a voice echoed from the back of the room. What if there's truth to what he says? What if we don't need to be afraid? It was the elderly woman who had stood beside me, her voice trembling yet unwavering. Who are you to question her authority? Sophia snapped, turning her ire. I am just a witness to your duplicity. We've suffered long enough, but we can fight back together. The woman's quiet resolve settled over the room, thickening the air with solidarity. Emboldened by her courage, I sensed the tides were shifting further. It wasn't just about protecting Eva anymore, this was a collective fight for freedom against the suffocating grip of fear that chained us to secrecy. And just as hope illuminated the horizon, the ground beneath us quaked with the weight of an unseen storm. A gunshot echoed outside, piercing the fraught atmosphere. Silence fell like a guillotine's blade, slicing through the momentary dawn. The crowd froze, eyes wide in collective disbelief. There were no more questions, only a visceral sense of dread, as each heartbeat echoed the realization that whatever prize we sought, it now came with a steep price, a price we may never be ready to pay. The gunshot reverberated through the hall like a dark omen, the sound clinging to the air with a tangible weight. I instinctively ducked, hands instinctively clutching at my sides, my heart hammering within the confines of my chest. The faces around me transformed into masks of horror, each individual momentarily stripped of their convictions, vulnerability radiating from their very cores like shattered glass. That was a warning. Sophia's voice cut through the sudden chaos, sharp and commanding. She had regained her composure, but the quiver in her words gave her away. Stay calm. It's meant to intimidate us, to shatter our resolve. Don't let them. But panic had woven its way into the fabric of that moment, and the crowd surged toward the exit like a tide pulling in a desperate direction. Get back! I shouted, trying to find my voice, trying to bridge the chasm of fear threatening to engulf us all. Don't panic. Don't allow them to dictate our actions. In the clamor, Adam's gaze caught mine, a flicker of mutual understanding passing between us. There was no time to waste. We had to do more than react. We needed to fortify our spirits, respond to this incitement with a stronger front. I could sense an urgent shift. The whispers of change rustled through the room, hesitant at first, gathering momentum. Sophia watched as the turmoil unfolded, a calculated expression flickering across her face, wavering between her hardened resolve and the disquiet of uncertainty that threatened to crack her facade entirely. Let them run if they choose. She barked sharply, her stance radiating authoritarian control. The truth only reveals itself when it's chased away, when it's pursued relentlessly. What we face is larger than mere fear. It's about survival, survival? I yelled back, my voice cutting through the din. You mean survival for your empire? You've built your kingdom on our suffering, Sophia. Who will protect us when your walls finally crumble? My words hung in the air, igniting a spark of courage amongst a few. A cascade of murmurs broke out as some began to gravitate back toward us, their resolve still flickering. It was more than just fear, it was an unyielding will to know the truth, to seek understanding in the face of chaos. As the crowd began to settle, however tentatively, my eyes drifted back to Adam. I could see the weight of his past bearing down on him, the scars of betrayal and regret merging with a renewed sense of purpose. He opened his mouth to speak again, but a sudden sound from outside shattered the moment once more. A second gunshot rang out, closer this time. A woman screamed, and chaos erupted anew. People jostled and stumbled, their desperation palpable. I fought against the rush, moving closer to Adam as he stepped forward once again, his voice trembling but steady. This is precisely what they want. They think they can splinter us apart. His voice rose above the din, galvanizing those nearby. But if we stand together, if we're willing to listen, we can navigate through this darkness, together? A younger man echoed, his brow furrowed. After everything, can we really trust each other? Can we trust you? He pointed an accusatory finger at Adam, skepticism etched on his face, a canyon of doubt widening between the two factions forming in that space. Adam took a deep breath, and I felt my heart lurch. He was stepping into the very arena from which he had fled before. Yes, he said, vulnerable yet fierce. I was wrong, but am not here to deceive you. I come bearing the scars of our shared past. I can't promise I'm perfect, but I can promise my loyal timely commitment to whatever it takes to protect this community and bring light to what's hidden. That I could feel an energy spark from the exchange, an ember flickering to life, igniting hearts as more voices joined in murmurs of agreement. The doubts were still there, but they mingled with a sense of possibility blooming amidst the shadows. Just then, as hope began to stir, a figure emerged in the doorway. Clad in a slick, tailored suit that gleamed even in the dim lighting, it was a stark contrast to the chaos just outside. As they stepped further into the room, they raised a hand, signaling for quiet. I wouldn't move any closer if I were you. A low, chilling voice filled the room, sending chills cascading down my spine. We wouldn't want anyone else to get hurt, would we? This is a friendly warning. The newcomer's gaze settled on Sophia, an expression on their face that oozed both authority and contempt. "Your time is running short, Sophia. The game is about to change for all of us." The tension surged as they locked eyes with Adam, as if they alone understood the depth of the stakes before us. A sudden breaking point loomed ahead, along with fleeting glimmers of hope buried within the darkness that surrounded us, weaving a complex tapestry of potential alliances and treacherous betrayals. In the thick atmosphere, the air felt charged, electric yet foreboding. Our truths were exposed, but the deeper truths lay just beyond grasp, entangled in this web of deception where no one could be wholly trusted, where every choice could lead us closer to salvation or further down the abyss. As I looked around the crowd, dread entwined with anticipation, I knew we were teetering on the edge of a precipice. Our decisions would define us, and for some, the moment of truth might come when we least expect it. The atmosphere quaked with tension, an exquisite blend of fear and defiance, as the stranger's words settled into the minds of the crowd. My heart raced, the thrum of adrenaline pulsing violently through my veins. The figure before us exuded an air of authority tinged with malice, and I couldn't shake the feeling that an ominous storm was brewing just beyond our fragile refuge. "Sophia," I murmured, stealing a glance at her as she faced the suited intruder, a former ally turned adversary. The weight of her choices bore down on her shoulders, and I could see her steely exterior begin to crack. "What do you know about them?" "Enough," she replied curtly, her eyes narrowing as she maintained a facade of strength. "But there are forces at play that go beyond simple alliances. This isn't merely a game of power, it's survival." The stranger shifted, leaning slightly forward as if anticipating a change in the air. "Survival, indeed." Their voice dripped with sarcasm, an undercurrent of contempt weaving through each syllable. "But let's not kid ourselves, this is a game of chess, and every pawn counts. The question is, how many of you are willing to sacrifice for the sake of your queen?" A ripple of unrest slithered through the crowd, our collective resolve threatened by the very words meant to intimidate us. I could see emotions shifting, faces turning pale or seething with stubborn anger. Doubt danced in the shadows of our hearts as unspoken questions hung heavy above our heads. Who here would betray us? Who would stand resolutely in the line of fire? The tension gnawed at my insides, and instinctively, I moved closer to Adam, who remained an unwavering beacon among the chaos. "We can't let them divide us," he whispered, his breath a soft urgency mingling with the clamor. "We need to find the common thread that ties us together. I don't know if we're all on the same side," I confessed softly, my voice barely above a whisper. "The fear is palpable. People will do anything to survive, even turn against each other." In that moment, I felt the tremor of a new voice rising within me, an unexpected courage blossoming in the depths of my uncertainty. "If there's anything we've learned through adversity, it's that trust must be earned gradually, not handed out blindly," I said, drawing on the energy pulsating from within the crowd. "Let's work together. We can't change the past, but we can rewrite the future if we choose to." A few heads nodded hesitantly, and a man near the front grasped my words like a lifeline. "We've lost so much already, our homes, our sense of trust," he said, a tremor of grief creeping into his voice. "But we're still here. We have to band together, find strength in one another, and confront whatever comes next." Slowly, murmurs blossomed into determined voices as we began to unite against the pervasive fear. I watched as Sophia's resolve solidified, a radiant fire igniting in her once doubtful eyes. But just as the atmosphere softened and a glimmer of hope began to unfurl, the stranger took a step back, feigning indifference. "Don't take too long to decide," they warned, their gaze shifting from one person to another, penetrating and cold. "Time is not on your side, and neither are the choices you will make. Well, be watching, and believe me, the wrong move could spell disaster." As they turned to leave, I felt a collective shiver pass through our group, the air heavy with foreboding. The door clicked shut behind them, but an ominous sense of closure lingered, magnifying the dread that had already begun to weave through our vulnerability. The flickering light overhead cast shadows across the room, illuminating the uncertain glances we exchanged. "What now?" someone whispered, the raw question hanging uncomfortably. "The only way is forward," Adam said, his voice resolute amidst the doubt. We have to find a way to reveal who's truly on our side. But we must tread carefully. There are even greater dangers lurking in our shadows. As the word settled, I felt a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach. I could sense a fracture forming, the thread of deceit connecting us stretching perilously thin. Our unity was fragile, teetering between hope and despair. With hearts racing and minds heavy with conflict, we began to strategize our next steps. Yet as I observed the group, a sinking realization dawned upon me. Something was growing amongst us, creeping through the fissures of trust, a relentless betrayal waiting to unfurl. I turned my gaze back toward the door, lingering uncertainty clawing at my throat. We were not just battling our outside foes, the enemy was also inside, concealed in plain sight. Suddenly, the door flung open. A figure, breathless and panicked, rushed inside. "They've taken someone!" they cried, fear dancing wildly in their eyes. My heart dropped as whispers ricocheted through the room, collective horror settling like a chilling fog. As we all turned to the newcomer, our fears coalescing into a singular question: who had been lost in the chaos? The gravity of the situation deepened. Now we must confront not only external threats but the fraying bonds of loyalty that threatened our very survival. The murmurs of confusion and dread erupted into a cacophony, each voice rising above the others as we grappled with the shocking news. Who was taken?" I shouted over the din, desperation threading through my words. 1,000 possibilities raced through my mind, the stark reality that any of us could be next. The newcomer's brow furrowed with fear as she struggled to catch her breath. It was James. He was out scouting for supplies and they grabbed him. They were waiting. I don't know how they knew. It all happened so fast. James, his name felt like an anchor, triggering a cascade of memories. He had become part of our makeshift family, his laughter and optimism a buoy amidst the storm. The thought of him in danger twisted my stomach into knots. "We can't just leave him to whatever they have planned," I said, my voice trembling. "We have to do something, but what?" Adam interjected, his voice strained. "We don't know what we're walking into. We could be leading ourselves right into a trap." "You remember the stranger's words," they echoed in my mind. Time was not on our side, and neither were the choices we made. But the thought of abandoning James felt like surrendering to despair. I refused to accept that he could be lost to us, kidnapped by the very forces we were trying to resist. Maybe if we move quickly," Sophia suggested, her voice unexpectedly steady amidst the chaos, "we can create a diversion. If we can get to the area nearby where James was taken, we might catch them off guard." "Great plan," Adam said, but his brow furrowed. "And if we encounter them? We're outnumbered. We might not make it back." "That I don't care. He is one of us," I snapped, frustrated by the weight of caution against the fire surging in my chest. "We can't turn our backs. Either we stand together now, or we risk losing everything we've worked for." The room went silent, the weight of my words cradling the fragile unity we had begun to build. I could see gratitude blooming in the eyes of those around me, a flicker of hope taking root even in the face of fear. "Let's do it," the man from earlier said, his voice emerging with unexpected resolve. "Let's go get James. We can't afford to lose anyone else." "Okay, then," Adam agreed hesitantly. "Well, go, but we have to stay sharp. Watch each other's backs. We won't split up." We rallied together, a semblance of our former selves stitching us together despite the gnawing uncertainty. A small group began to gather supplies, flashlights, anything that could serve as a weapon. As I helped prepare, I felt a strange warmth spreading through me, a tiny ember of encouragement amidst the impending darkness. We left the safety of our refuge and stepped into the unknown, the shadows stretching around us as the night enveloped our every step. The air was thick with tension, each rustle of leaves and soft echo of footsteps amplifying the fear in my chest. Moments turned into an eternity as we reached the abandoned warehouse where James had last been seen. Its doors hung ajar, a menacing invitation. We halted in a cluster, scanning the dimly lit interior, cautious, tense. The weight of our breaths could silence the darkest night. "Stay close," Adam whispered, gesturing for calm as we filed into the warehouse. Inside, the rotten wood of crates and the remnants of long-forgotten machinery surrounded us, remnants of a past we were barely able to navigate. I noticed graffiti on the wall, symbols of rebellion and despair, but more importantly, there were signs of struggle. Almost as if the walls themselves whispered of the fear and desperation we all felt. Suddenly, a muffled sound broke through the silence, a cry, faint yet frantic. It drew us deeper into the heart of the darkness, a magnetic pull that intensified with every step toward James. I took the lead, heart racing in solidarity with those following closely behind. James. I called out, my voice barely a whisper. Can you hear us? Here. Came a voice, strained but undeniably his. The relief was nearly overwhelming, but I knew it was too soon to celebrate. That we followed the sound until we reached a back room, battered and worn. The sight before us surged my heart. James was tied to a chair, his face bruised but his spirit unyielded, igniting a flicker of resolve amidst my dread. As we rushed toward him, the atmosphere shifted violently. A figure stepped from the shadows, a woman in a tailored suit, stern and resolute. It was the stranger from before, eyes alight with malice and amusement. You really do enjoy playing games, don't you? She sneered, the cruelty evident as she surveyed our growing desperation. And you didn't even bring enough pawns to save your precious piece. That we halted, the air thick with impending doom, the clash of hope and despair crashing against each other in my chest. I could feel panic simmering beneath the surface. Was this where our fragile alliance crumbled under the weight of a new adversary? What do you want with him? I managed to ask, my voice barely holding strong against the quiver of fear. The intruder grinned, a chilling expression that sent a wave of dread washing over me. Oh, we're just getting started, she replied, gaze glimmering with cruel satisfaction. You see, the real game has only just begun. In that moment, the fear settled like lead in my stomach, the fragile hope we'd built seemed ready to shatter. I clasped my hands together, shaking with the weight of the unknown while the future hung precariously in the balance. The only clarity I had was that this was not just a confrontation, it was a turning point that could alter the course of everything we held dear, and with her final words still echoing in the dark, I realized, the real sacrifice might not be our lives but rather our very souls. The tension in the room felt like a living thing, tightening its grip around each of us as we faced the woman who had come to embody our fears. Her presence loomed large, as if the flickers of light that illuminated the warehouse had dimmed in her wake. Let him go, I blurted out, my voice louder than I intended. The words edged on desperation, but was it bravery to speak up at such an unsettling moment, or was it the folly of a dreamer refusing to accept the depth of our reality? She merely laughed, a sound that echoed and rippled through the room like a chilling breeze. And why would I do that? Her eyes sparkled with intrigue, as if my courage amused her. The boy is a pawn in a much larger game. He's worth more to me here than he is free. Stop playing with us. Sophia shouted, stepping forward, but I held her back, sensing her emotions raw and close to the surface. The stakes were all too real, and we needed to approach this differently. What do you gain from this? I forced myself to ask, channeling the indignation that coursed within me. You have no reason to hurt him. She leaned against the doorframe with a predatory grace, tilting her head as though my question piqued her interest. You see, darling, in this world, power is everything. Once you understand that, you'll realize the beauty of holding lives within your grasp. But I digress, let's not waste time on trivial pursuits. My heart hammered painfully in my chest. We couldn't afford to hesitate, and yet fear clung to our ankles like heavy chains. Io glanced warily at Adam, who was calculating the odds, weighing our options against the growing tension in the air. Let James go, and well leave. No one needs to get hurt, I said, the words tumbling out, though deep inside, I felt the weight of their inadequacy. Ah, so noble, she continued, savoring each word like fine wine. But I think not. You really have no idea what it is you're asking. She straightened, her stance sharp and commanding. Your friend here has something I need information. She turned to look at James, who regarded her defiantly despite the binds restricting him. You'll learn soon enough, you're all just pieces. Unwilling players in a game far bigger than yourselves, stop it. James shouted suddenly, his voice hoarse but steady. Well, never weigh the value of our lives against your ambitions. You'll never break us.my eyes widened, a swell of pride rising within me as I registered his unwavering spirit. Encased in fear, there was still a fire that burned within him, a fire that deserved our protection and reverence. The woman's gaze turned icy, the corners of her mouth twisting into a disdainful sneer. How quaint. But let's see how long that stubbornness lasts when isolation closes in. You have 1 hour before I decide to change the rules of the game. With that, she turned on her heels, striding away into the shadows, her presence vanishing like smoke in the wind, leaving an oppressive silence in her wake. James. I rushed to him, crouching down to assess the rope tight against his wrists. Are you okay? It'll be fine, he gasped, the color lingering in his face suggesting otherwise. It's you guys I'm worried about. Well, get you out, Adam promised, eyes darting around the forgotten room. But we need to stay calm. We're still in this together. As I worked to loosen the ropes, I felt the frantic heartbeat of anxiety thrumming around us, each tick echoing the seconds we had left under the impending weight of her threat. Use those moments wisely. Suddenly, a scuffle emerged from the far end of the room, drawing our attention. An unexpected figure appeared, catching us completely off guard, a young girl, no older than 12, clutching what appeared to be a rusty wrench. Her eyes were wide with fear, but they burned with determination. Wait. Don't hurt him, please. She cried, her voice shrill. Who are you? I asked, astonished by her unexpected arrival. She looked around, fear morphing into fierce resolve. I work for her, sort of, she stammered, shaking slightly. But I couldn't do it. I had to stop her. She shall hurt you. Just like she hurt James. Adam moved toward her. You're here to help? To save him. With a nod, she brandished the wrench, though her grip was more an act of defense than aggression. You have to hurry. There's a way out, I know it. Hope surged within me, but just as quickly, doubt was its shadow. Could we really trust her? It felt like wading through deep waters, uncertainty lapping at our feet. Okay, I said slowly, my heart racing in tandem with the urgency rising in the room. Lead the way. But don't be tricked into thinking, well, leave James behind. As we turned to follow her, a realization struck me. Her presence was a bit like stepping into a light all its own amidst our fog of despair. Perhaps a flicker of hope was enough to help us find our way, but as we scurried toward the unknown, the second heart-stopping revelation crashed over me. If she worked for the woman who threatened us, the clock was ticking louder than ever. We had mere moments to escape, moments before our next move locked us into a fate we didn't understand. As we sprinted into the depths of the warehouse, I could feel it, the game had begun, and the pieces were already moving. What I couldn't yet fathom, however, was how many lives would be sacrificed before the end. The warehouse loomed around us like a labyrinth, each corner concealing secrets that felt more sinister with each passing second. The girl led the way, her tiny figure darting between the shadows, illuminating the path with sporadic sparks of hope. As we followed closely, I couldn't shake off the sensation of being hunted, the unseen predator lurking just beyond our sight. Just a little further, she whispered, glancing back, her face pale from fear. After that door, it's an emergency exit. But please, you have to trust me. My heart twisted as uncertainties clawed at the back of my mind. Could we trust her? The young girl had described herself as an unwilling participant in this toxic game. Yet, the uncertain glint in her eyes mirrored my own burgeoning desperation. What's your name? I asked, needing something to anchor my trust in her. Lila, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper as she moved swiftly. Just want to help. I hate what she does to people. She's not who you think she is. Not entirely. Before I could respond, a vibration rattled the ground beneath our feet, shaking the warehouse like a beast waking from slumber. The air thickened with foreboding as I chanced a glance back at James. His quiet strength reignited a flicker of resolve within me. We were in this together, we had to be. Hang in there, James, I said, offering him a smile that felt worn at the edges. "We're getting you out," he nodded, but the pallor of his skin suggested otherwise. I pushed down panic, not allowing it to bleed into my resolve. The stakes had risen with every breath. "Quick!" Lila called, interrupting my spiraling thoughts. She reached for a metal handle and yanked the door open, revealing a dimly lit corridor that seemed to stretch endlessly. "This way." As we surged into the corridor, the darkness swallowed us whole, leaving shadows dancing behind. We pressed on, adrenaline coursing through our veins. Despite the urgency, I could feel the tendrils of fear wrapping around my heart every time a sound echoed from behind us. What's going to happen to us if we get caught? I couldn't help but ask, voicing the worry that had been gnawing at me since the moment the woman had seized control. I glanced at Lila, seeing the fear flickering back to life in her dark eyes. She paused for a brief moment, her hands trembling as if the very mention of danger threatened to shatter her composure. "She's powerful. She doesn't just hurt people physically, she manipulates them. If you get caught, she'll break you." A shiver ran down my spine at her words, but my resolve hardened. We couldn't let her weave her darkness over our lives. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pulse of sorrow, the memory of all James had endured clawing back into my mind. I reached for the flash drive hidden in my pocket, the evidence we had collected against the woman, information that could expose her crimes to the world. Our only hope was that it would buy us at least a fighting chance to break free. Then, without warning, a loud crash came from behind us, echoing ominously through the corridor. The air recoiled in fear as if the walls themselves understood the terror that was coming for us. "All of you! Move!" Adam barked, urgency lending his words a timbre of authority. We pushed onward, clinging to the thin threads of hope and the knowledge that each step pulled us closer to liberation. Just as the hallway twisted before us, an obstructed figure emerged, another person, hunched with ropes binding them. "Help!" came the anguished cry from a familiar voice that sent my heart plummeting. I gasped, recognizing Evan, a mutual friend who had been missing for weeks. He was ragged and bruised, the light in his eyes dulled, but there was still an ember of defiance flickering within him. "Get Mino!" Lilith's voice broke in, panic overtaking her demeanor. "She'll know you're here if we stop, Adam, we can't just leave him." I pleaded, the thought of abandoning him while we still had a chance tightened my throat. "Listen to her!" Evan yelled, as desperation edged his voice. "You don't understand. If you stay, she'll find all of you." Time hung in the air like thick smoke, uncertainty wreathed in desperation. For a second, my heart battled clarity. The thought of leaving Evan, of leaving anyone, felt like setting fire to a piece of our humanity. But I also understood that one mistake could end us all. "Please. Help me!" he cried, his voice slicing through the weight of indecision like a knife, drawing tears to my eyes. "James needs us too." I responded, glancing at him, but my mind raced, torn between loyalty and survival. Just then, as if the universe were mocking our plight, the faint sound of footsteps echoed from behind, a harbinger of destruction rushing in our direction. The woman was nearing. It was a desperate race against time, and in the chaos of conflicting emotions, I had to decide. "Go!" Adam shouted, pulling at my arm as if sensing the struggle. "If we hesitate, we're all done for." Just then, Lilith's voice broke into the din of panic. "We can't leave him." "But I can create a distraction, are you sure?" I asked, fear gripping my heart tightly. "I'm sure," she responded, her small frame radiating a fierce determination that surprised me. It was a tiny spark in a dark world. "When I say go, run." The footsteps grew louder, an approaching imposition, and I knew every moment lost could be another nail in our coffin. "Stay low," Adam warned, pulling James closer to him as we crouched down behind an abandoned crate into the shadows. "Let's do it," I whispered urgently to Lila, my heart pounding fiercely against the coil of fear squeezing around my chest. "Now!" Lila shouted suddenly, dashing off toward the far end of the corridor, wielding her wrench like a sword, hammering on the walls and sending a cacophony of noise reverberating through the air. As chaos erupted, shadows fell thick and heavy around us, an unsettling blanket that obscured the truth. I glanced back toward Evan, so close yet so far away, a part of me yearning to leap in his direction. But as Lilla's small figure darted further down the hall, distraction embers illuminating the way, the time to move pressed upon us. Go. Now. James urged, his strained voice igniting the urgency within my bones. With one last look thrown over my shoulder, I fought the instinct to turn back and sprinted down the corridor with Adam beside me, my heart beating wildly with each step I took away from the one person I hoped we could save. But the echo of Evan's cry reverberated within me, battling against every instinct that had driven me forward. The truth settled over me like a heavy fog, a realization that the battlefield was not limited to our immediate escape but stretched far beyond, intertwining lives and destinies in a dance with darkness, and then I heard its sickening sound of footsteps drawing nearer, the unmistakable essence of danger creeping closer. The game was about to shift. The pieces were not just being moved but were entangled in a web of chaos and fear. It was in that moment, within the suffocating shadows and thrumming anxiety, I understood, there would be no easy escape. I faced an unspeakable truth that in our desperate pursuit to save one another, we may end up ensnared in a fate far worse than the one we now fought against. The dim glow from a distant exit sign illuminated the late-night corridor as we sprinted down its length. Every heartbeat resonated in my ears, a chaotic drum urging me on while the weight of despair surged behind us, thickening the air. As we reached the exit I could feel tension crackling through my veins. Adam led the way, James clutched beside him, each step fueled by an urgency that twisted through our collective desperation. Come on. He called, a fierce resolve pulsing through his words, and with each step toward freedom, I couldn't help but glance back, the echoes of Lilla's distraction intertwining with my thoughts. Would she be okay? The wrench she wielded felt like a symbol of her courage against the looming threat, yet fear gnawed at me relentlessly. The exit loomed ahead, our path twisting into oblivion, but I hesitated, the shadows still heavy behind us. We can't leave her. I shouted, my voice rising above the dim chaos, drowning in anxiety. Do you want to be caught too? Adam shot back, urgency snapping in his tone. If we don't move now, this chance vanishes. She knows we're here, but could we really abandon someone who sought to help us? In the depths of my soul, something shifted. The echo of the fight hadn't diminished, it had intensified. I shut my eyes for a moment, drawing in a breath as dread and resolve battled within me. We'll find our way back for her, I promised, though uncertainty clung to my words, half-hearted and frail. This isn't over. We have to regroup. As we launched forward, bursting through the exit doors into the cool night air, an unexpected weight lifted. But an instant later, a bone-chilling sound struck. Gunfire erupted, ricocheting against the concrete walls, a harbinger of the chaos lurking behind. Get down. Adam shouted, pulling James hurriedly behind a parked van just as the world erupted behind us in an array of blinding flashes. Rapid shots reverberated, and instinct took over as our bodies curled protectively, hearts pounding alongside the ricocheting bullets. What do we do? I gasped, panic invading my voice. We can't stay here. James wheezed, struggling against Adam's grasp. We have to. Just then, a familiar voice pierced through the cacophony. What a game we play. It was the woman with the cruel smile, striding through the chaos like a predator relishing her surroundings. My heart sank, despair curling cold fingers around my throat. Maggie. A voice echoed across the expanse, and my breath caught in disbelief. It was Lila, rushing toward us from the shadows, her fierce expression reaffirming our shared conviction, an embodiment of all that we had fought against. Behind her, the other figures caught up, some familiar faces from our alliances and some strangers caught in the web of chaos, moving toward us with an intent that felt like a force shared. Maggie. We need to go. Lila shouted as she neared, urgency painting her features. She's led his men away momentarily, but they won't be gone for long. The sense of time felt deceptive, tangible yet elusive as unease settled in my bones. But what about Evan? I spluttered, my heart aching at the thought of leaving him behind, the picture of his desperate eyes burning in my mind. That I won't leave him behind either, Lila said fiercely, her small stature gleaming with an unwavering fire. But right now, we need to escape. We can find a way back. Together. We're taking you with us. Adam insisted, fixing his gaze on Lila. As the group rumbled onward, a flicker ignited within. We have to rally together, I declared firmly, looking around at them, all the weary, hopeful souls who had fought alongside me. On the count of 3, we moved together as one. Lila, lead. Within the profound silence of uncertainty that hung heavily around us, a sense of solidarity brewed, and I could feel anticipation surging anew. 1, 2, 3, with a collective breath, we surged out into the night, hearts synchronized, sprinting toward an uncertain freedom that steadily beckoned us. But the moment of quiet liberation was short-lived. Gunfire echoed once more, bullets whizzed past, grazing our sides as we dove for cover. Keep moving. I shouted, adrenaline pushing us to evade the chaos erupting all around. It was as if we were fleeing from the shadows of our own truths, but even as we progressed, nightmare visions of Evan lingered in my mind, a palpable sorrow that clung like a heavy mist. The shadows of betrayal etched a despairing reminder of the battles ahead. Well, come back. I whispered to myself. Well, save him. This isn't over. Just as we scrambled toward safety, another figure darted out from the shadows, an ally, frantic yet determined. It was Ben, one of the more steadfast supporters in our corner. We have to move now. He urged, urgency lacing every syllable. She's taken control of the area, there are too many of them. We need to gather the others and find a way to outmaneuver her. How? We're all just pawns in her game. I gasped, the shadows of doubt creeping in again. No, Maggie, Ben asserted fiercely, determination blazing in his voice. We're more than that. This is bigger than chess, it's a revolution. If we fight together, we'll rise above the noise. His words ignited a fresh wave of realization within me. We weren't just pursuing survival, we were holding onto something intangible, an ethereal spirit that could crack the fortress of fear and oppression. As we reached a wooded glen, breaths mingling in exhausted gasps, I gathered everyone close. Listen. I implored, desperation invading my voice. This is our moment to define ourselves. We cannot let her steer our lives anymore. We will fight not just for ourselves or Evan, but for every person lost in her treachery. A chorus of murmurs rippled through my allies, embers of hope ignited. I could see a spark, a flame within their eyes, a determination to rewrite our fate as we shed the chains that had held us captive. In that defining moment, we pledged our loyalty not just to each other, but to a mission far greater than ourselves. We would seek truth, and we would cut through the lies as fiercely as we could, unyielding in our purpose, and as the night descended around us, weaving shadows across our determination, I knew one thing for certain: this was only the beginning. We would take back our narrative, and whatever darkness lurked on the horizon, we would face it, together. Because when we embraced our collective strength, we transcended mere pawns, we became the catalysts of our own fate, spirits unbroken, ready to revive hope where despair once lingered silently. The game had shifted, and as we moved forward, it burned through each of us with a healing fire, reminding us of the power of our resolve in a world trying so fiercely to divide us. We are not afraid. I shouted, my heart soaring as the echoes rippled through the trees, a proclamation of our renewed purpose. And together, we would pave the way toward a dawn reborn, knitting threads of hope into a brighter tomorrow. Because every flame ignites a revolution, and every flame deserves to shine. Even in the darkest of nights, we would rise, unyielding. And every one of us would find our voice again indefinitely.